Good morning, dear Mr. Donfried, ladies and gentlemen, dear students. Again, it's a great pleasure for me to be today again with you under the different circumstances which are currently in Europe and Euro-Atlantic field, and definitely by introducing myself and by preparing this speech and lecture, I got to totally change all of the speeches and all of the points which I mentioned last year, because the situation has been dramatically changed in our area. Maybe just one point from my side regarding culture. I think that the point of this study is very important for diplomacy, because I'm going to tell you a little bit later about the values as a principal core of the European Union. Culture is deeply rooted in the European values. Just imagine very important writers, very important composers, very important people who have shaped Europe throughout the decades and centuries. So culture is indispensable and not separable from all of the efforts which diplomats are doing and trying to undertake. When it comes to the concrete job of one ambassador and one embassy, I think that culture is one of the priorities of every embassy in Berlin. We are organizing on a weekly basis certain cultural events for two reasons. Once, because throughout the culture we can present our country in the best possible way, and secondly, culture is definitely dialogue between the different politicians, different nations, even in the situation when there are different standpoints between our countries and the other countries. Throughout culture, we are definitely able to create a better understanding, especially in Europe. I'm going to be focused on political issues because the current situation, as I have already mentioned, shaped, of course, diplomacy and all of our efforts, what we are trying to do in Europe and in NATO. And just a few points from my side which I want to emphasize in my speech and in the preparation of this event. I want to emphasize that success achieved in the past does not guarantee success in the future. So we have been always trying to be focused on transition, on what have already been done from our side as a very important example, Croatian example, to the countries who are willing to join the EU, willing to join NATO, to participate in the global order. But basically it is not easy to use those opportunities and experiences nowadays. So it has to be adapted, because everything is evolving rapidly. Geopolicy, geoeconomy, security environment has been totally changed. And all of the institutions, policies and partnership must be continuously adapted to the new realities. On the daily basis, we have some new situation. Cooperation, resilience and strategic foresight are essential for addressing future challenges. Just a couple of examples. A few years ago, nobody have mentioned, or very few people, AI. AI, as a diplomatic tool, has become very important. We're all using AI in order to support our job, to support our analysis, but this is not enough. The challenge is now how to make your analysis with AI, but not only focused and rely on first informations coming from AI. So this has been dramatically changed our diplomatic work. But as I already mentioned, we should not forget also old traditional conservative way of analyzing situation worldwide. We are facing huge challenge when it comes to hybrid wars, disinformation campaigns, the rise of populism. 10 years ago, we didn't have this situation. Nowadays, We got to figure out which information are realistic, which information are based on certain circumstances, and which are disinformation, which is absolutely not easy, because we got to stick with the media and with media information. Every day we start by reading Politico, by reading New York Times, German newspaper, and we have to understand and we have to distinguish what informations are fake, what informations are spent, and what information are valuable. So this is a big challenge for us, especially in Europe, because Europe is, you see that populism is on the rise in Europe. There are many countries who are facing elections. For example, next year there will be 4 from the critical importance elections in Europe. And we will see, of course, what will be the shape of Europe after those elections. At the same time, we got to, of course, make a special safeguards for democratic values, institution, and public trust. Of course, at the same time, you got to be ready to react immediately and to change your position and to inform your government about certain circumstances in the real time. You don't have time to analyze 24 hours. It's very important to come up with some information and analysis immediately. I will stop here and I will say a few words about Croatia in order to present my country. The interesting circumstances with Croatia is a very successful transformation of the country. We have been recognized as an independent country in 1992. Before that, we were the part of Yugoslavia, and there was a war in the 90s, aggression on Croatia. But later on, we managed to join the European Union, NATO. We are now in the Schengen zone. We are the members of Eurozone. We are successfully approaching OECD. And practically, those experiences are unique, and we are offering those experiences to the countries in our neighborhood and to the countries who are willing to join European Union and NATO, especially in the Western Balkans. Geographical position of Croatia is also very important and interesting. Croatia connects Danube and Mediterranean. The only country in Southeast Europe and Central Europe who is connecting these 2 very important pillars of Europe. And we serve as a bridge between Central and Southeastern Europe. Of course, the goal for Croatia, because we are a rather small country, as all of the other countries, depend on the security and stability of our neighboring countries. We are trying to spread out those values and our transitional our experiences to the countries in the neighborhood. In the international field, we promote dialogue and partnership, build relationship based on mutual respect and shared interests, and fundamental values are extremely important. It means respect of human dignity, rule of law, media freedom, democracy, and free and fair elections. Quite important is this last point, very much based on the challenge regarding hybrid activities. I want to say a few words about European Union. European Union fundamentally is the union of the values. This is quite important to understand that the values are, it's this very important glue which brings our nations and countries together. We should not forget, just imagine Potsdam 70 years ago. It was a horrible war in Europe, especially in this part of Europe, but also in my country. Since 17 years, we live in peace and in freedom. And we should not take this as granted. This is quite important. My generation, for example, I was born in '67. We were thinking in the 80s, come on, nothing could be changed. It rapidly changed in 1 year. I was the soldier in the Croatian army during the war. So nobody could predict this situation. Another very important point about Europe, it's a unique political project, and it's a work in progress. This is quite important to say. We see that European Union has been on the daily basis evaluated. On the daily basis, we have some new points. We are trying to make some new political ingredients, new way of cooperation nowadays, especially in defense and in security. And European Union is based on solidarity. Of course, there are many challenges. I will never forget, of course, this famous remark from Henry Kissinger, who said, when I call Europe, which number I got to dial? This is quite important to understand. We have 27 countries. Some of those countries 70 years ago, they were in war against each other, Germany, France. Now, Germany and France are basically from the pivotal relationship for the European Union and cooperating on the daily basis. The challenge for Europe is, first of all, to strengthen European competitiveness. We got to be on the equal foot with some other big countries. And in this regard, for this purpose, we got to reduce unnecessary bureaucracy. We have to enhance economic resilience. We have to make strong internal market. We have to make additional efforts to make it. We have to improve our energy security and diversification. And definitely we have to increase European ability to be credible global actor and player. Geoeconomy is nowadays getting even more important. So everything what we are undertaking with some measures for our own citizens have to be linked and combined with our efforts in the international field. A strong and resilient Europe is essential for long-term peace and stability. And we have to play an active role in shaping future peace efforts and negotiation. In other words, and a very important issue nowadays is for European Union to be at the table when it comes to the negotiation process and peace process with Ukraine, because this is our territory. So this is quite important. In this regard, we got to be internally ready to make it and to be acceptable by some other countries as an important negotiator, because we are negotiating about the peace on our soil. For this regard, we got to have more interoperability and better cooperation, also in the military field, burden sharing, and to have the same standards all over Europe, which is not easy to achieve. There are some very important measures they've been undertaken in the last period of time, but this is not enough. We got to continue making some efforts to dismantle burdens when it comes to different standards within the European Union. Now I want to say something about the enlargement policy, because nowadays we are discussing very much about the enlargement of Europe, especially bearing in mind the position of Ukraine. Enlargement policy has been throughout the decades one of the most successful European policy. And my country is of course very much a staunch supporter of enlargement policy. Of course, at the same time, the candidate countries, those are Ukraine, Moldova, and the Western Balkan countries, they need to make domestic reforms and adjust themselves for European standards. And in this regard, NATO plays a very important role, because almost the same values, same principles are applicable for NATO and for European Union. Now, I want to say something about Ukraine. It's a matter of European affairs. And we are continuously, effectively supports Ukraine in humanitarian, for example, demining activities, in the rehabilitation of the for the veterans, and of course, sharing with Ukraine our experience when it comes to the strengthening of international justice, especially regarding war crimes. Of course, we have successfully managed to make reunification of our country in the 90s. So we are trying to show our examples, and we support Ukraine when it comes to Donbass and the future reintegration of the country. Everything what is related to European Union, because just recently, 2 days ago, Moldova and Ukraine started negotiation. They opened the first clusters with the European Union. Croatia, as the newest European country, can definitely show and we put ourselves on the disposal for Ukrainians in order to somehow share with them our lectures and share our experience with them how to negotiate with the European Union, not only based on negotiations, but also in order to make reforms for their own citizens domestically. Again, I want to emphasize that by supporting Ukraine, we are supporting European security, resilience, and defense. And this is based on very important international principles: international law, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. When it comes to international order, we strongly support the UN Charter and international law. Multilateralism remains essential, particularly for small and medium-sized countries. Maybe the big countries, they could fix their problems or protect their interests by themselves, by having a strong army or strong economy. Smaller countries, and they got to stick with international law. This is a very important compass for all of our countries. It's quite important, and we have been very active in United Nations throughout the decades. International institutions are those who are providing important safeguards for our sovereignty and security. We are seeing, of course, nowadays that the United Nations is facing huge challenges because the United Nations has been organized and set up in the post-Cold period of time, post-Cold War. It was 45. Now the situation has been changed, and numerous countries, they have tried to change, especially Security Council, which is not going so easy. But we'll continue to see whether the reforms of the United Nations and international law could be achievable in the forthcoming period. As I already mentioned, UN principles are compass for all of our countries. I'm not going to forget also our experience regarding so-called Global South, countries out of Europe, because Croatia has a very important experience from the period of time when non-alignment movement was very important, and we were very active when it comes to support of the countries in Africa, in Asia, in South America. We were the former of this organization. We have never been colonial power. This is quite important to say, and we are, of course, offering those countries our experiences. There are many students all over Africa and Asia who studied in Zagreb, in Croatia, in the last couple of years. So these principles, including international law as the major principle, are something what we are offering as a major principle and advocating to the other countries. Back to the EU and NATO, I think it's quite important to say that despite some opinions that EU and NATO, they have lost their values and they have lost their credibility and attractiveness, I think it's totally opposite. More and more countries are seeking to join NATO and European Union. Just one example. Recently, Sweden and Finland joined NATO. Why? Definitely because they have recognized that neutrality, as it used to be 10 years ago, is something which is definitely not providing enough safeguards and security for them. European Union. You have countries like the Western Balkan countries, Ukraine, Moldova, they are all willing to join European Union. Even Iceland will make a referenda about joining European Union. So this is quite important to say. Those two organizations, they didn't lose their attractiveness and importance. For the future of NATO and European security, despite recent developments with the United States, we got to stick with in cooperating with the United States, but also at the same time assume greater responsibility for their own defense. Simply, All of our countries, including Germany, they need to invest more for own defense and security. We have to strengthen European pillar of NATO. When it comes to defense, my country is on the daily basis continually doing a lot of efforts to make modernization of defense capabilities, to adjust ourselves with the modern Western military technology in order to strengthen social defense and security resilience. National measures are basically very much understandable when it comes to reintroduction of compulsory basic military training, and of course allocation of funds for security is in the line of NATO principles. It means that Croatia reached 2% of GDP for defense and security, and we will continue in allocating additional funds for modernization of our countries, basically till 5% in the next 7 or 8 years. When it comes to Croatia and NATO, I want to emphasize the importance of my country in terms of NATO's eastern flank and southeastern flank. There is a region, and I'll tell you a little bit later about one initiative. We are belonging to the region which are basically on the frontiers to the countries like Russia, Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, not only Russia, but also Middle East. So Croatia is making huge contribution to enhance cooperation on this southeastern flank of NATO. I want to say a few words about Western Balkans. The basic principles of the Croatian policy to Western Balkans and their endeavors to join European Union are basic principles of the regional cooperation: stability, democracy, economic development, regional security, regional cooperation, which is quite important. We have to support countries in the Western Balkans to cooperate with each other, like it was between Slovenia and Croatia throughout all of the years. Good neighborly relations and rule of law. Those are the basic principles that countries in the Western Balkans have to fulfilled on the way to European Union. We have the experience and expertise. We are offering this expertise to the Southeastern European countries. We want to encourage reforms, dialogue, and reconciliation throughout the region. And the very important part of my job in Germany is to promote Western Balkans as the region who will join, or countries who will join the European Union, and in support, in cooperation between our two countries when it comes to twinning projects, concrete support for the institutions in the countries in the Western Balkans. This is quite important. It is inseparable from transatlantic cooperation, and we are absolutely aware of the fact that so-called burden sharing is very important. We have to, of course, take over our responsibility and support NATO cooperation. I have already mentioned one initiative which was the focus of Croatian political goals, foreign political goals. This is 3C initiative, because Europe was very much...
Please, when you're attending the session, shut your mic. I will do myself.
Your Excellency, we're joined by participants.
Yeah. So, maybe one very important point which will describe Croatian foreign political goals is 3C initiative. We are chairman this year of 3C initiative, and the goal of 3C initiative is to support, on one side, cooperation between 3 Seas, Adria, Black Sea, and North Sea on one side, and on the other side, to boost cooperation in this axis north-south, because Europe was basically very much so far focused on East-West cooperation. I think it's quite important to improve cooperation in the field of transport, energy, and digital infrastructure for the countries from south until north. It is very much linked to economical cooperation, but also the goal is to support resilience of the countries which are on the way from south until north. In this regard, energy plays a very important role because Croatia is a natural hub for energy. We have established LNG terminal on the island Krk, and we are supporting and offering countries in Southeastern Europe and in Central Europe diversification from Russia energy, which is quite important for our economy, which is quite important for our resilience. And recently we have signed a very important agreement in this regard with Bosnian Herzegovinian side. This country is of course very especially fragile based on their history and geopolitical situation in the country. So this is another very important momentum to understand Croatian foreign policy. My government is putting a very strong emphasis on Mediterranean cooperation. We are chairman of Mediterranean Med9 organization. Quite important is to support or to find a common solution in the field of migration, energy, climate, maritime and regional stability, especially bearing in mind that Middle East is here, very close to this region, and Croatia is very much promoting the cooperation in Mediterranean arena in order to bring stronger the voice of Mediterranean in the European Union. Of course, the other countries are there as well: Spain, France, Italy, etc. Greece. This is quite important to say. I think that I want to mention just at the very end, because in the preparation of my speech I put also very much remarks on the German-Croatian relationship, but if you are interested in, later on we can share some information about this cooperation. Germany is for my country, Croatia, from the vital importance. We have a very strong tourism in Croatia. Most of the guests are from Germany, and therefore for my country stability from the very big importance. Maybe I just want to say that I already mentioned at the very beginning that geo-economy is nowadays in focus. There are some countries, and including my country, who since many decades have a little bit forgotten the fact of importance of the combining geo-economy and geopolicy. My concluding remarks are: there is no alternative for dialogue, and there is no alternative for diplomacy. It's a very good news coming from Middle East that hopefully the peace solution for this crisis is on the way, and as you see, eventually you will always have diplomacy who is fixing some problems. Preventive diplomacy is even better, much more better than coming post festum. So don't forget diplomacy. There are some people who are believing that diplomacy is obsolete. Asking themselves, why do we need international organization? Why do we need to have diplomacy at all? I think this diplomacy is again coming into the focus of our countries, and I hope that Europe will be able jointly with the partners to make a contribution together with my country for peace in Middle East and for peace in Ukraine. This is quite important, and we should not forget that this is a very important component of international cooperation. Once again, many thanks. It was a great pleasure to participate today, always supporting cultural diplomacy and all of your activities in this field. And I'm ready to make some further remarks when there is interest or from your side. Many thanks.
Good morning, Ambassador. Welcome back to ICD, because I've seen you several times before as well. My name is Sandeep. I'm a master's student here at the ICD. I'm from India. It's enlightening that you addressed this fundamental organizational difference between the UN and the EU. From your perspective, would you say that there is a difference also in organizational efficiency between these two? And if yes, do you think the UN has lessons to learn from the EU?
Do you want to take 2 or 3, or
Can you,
or one by
can I
one?
speak right away
Go,
or without
please.
microphone?
Please.
No, it's on.
But those are two different organizations. European Union is the union of 4 pillars. It has also the other components, like the market union, like freedom of movement. It's a way of economical cooperation, but also a special way how to harmonize our foreign and security policy in order to speak in one voice, which is of course not easy. United Nations is a different way of multilateral organization, and I wouldn't say that United Nations was not efficient enough in the previous time. For example, my country, and we are very proud of it, that we managed to make unification of the country, peaceful reintegration of the country, based on a very successful peacemaking mission in Croatia. So United Nations was in the 90s from the vital importance for my country. Certainly, it's a work in progress as well. I think that many countries, especially the big countries, will try to find a solution how to make reforms in the United Nations. We basically see that the Security Council is totally stuck, and there is no consensus when it comes to some huge global challenges for the time being. But I think that in the nature of European Union is multilateralism. It is the dialogue. So we are trying to make or to support reforms in the Security Council in order to see European Union stronger in this very important format. But again, I wouldn't say that United Nations basically is obsolete. Eventually, the crisis in the war in Ukraine, maybe also the situation in Middle East, for them it will be necessary to have United Nations on board. We'll see, of course, under which circumstances, but we should not forget also something which is not enough in the focus, and is development support. Still, you see that international organizations or part of the United Nations, like the Health Organization, World Health Organization, they're on a daily basis supporting some critical situation in Africa, in Asia. We're all supporting them, we are all contributing. Germany is, for example, the contributor number 2 in the United Nations. I think it's quite important, because nowadays everything is interconnected. Every crisis in Middle East affects Europe, affects Africa. And I will stop by saying that those are 2 different organizations. The history of the European Union is different than United Nations, but somehow the basic principles of United Nations and Europe, they intertwine, like everything has been mentioned in the UN Charter, like territorial sovereignty and the rule of law, the human dignity are the basic principles of the European Union. So whenever the European countries are coming with certain statements, the marches regarding the wars, including my country, Croatia, we always stick with those basic principles. It's very important in Croatia during the 90s that those basic principles of the United Nations had been fulfilled in my country, like the territorial sovereignty. So different organizations, I wouldn't say that there is no differences in efficiency. But again, I hope that the United Nations with the principles will prevail. We see that some other formats like G7 sometimes are taking over responsibility when it comes to a decision-making process, but eventually it has to be materialized in United Nations, because this will be definitely necessary in many countries. So I'm not quite pessimistic. I think that based on the on the current situation and informations from Middle East, we will be able to achieve peaceful solution.
Thank you very much. We can take one or two more. Also, feel free, those on Zoom, don't be shy.
Good morning. My name's Arlette. I'm from the Netherlands. Thank you for sharing all this with us, Mr. Ambassador. You mentioned earlier that we have to support Western Balkan countries in their cooperation efforts on a regional level. So, of course, for this, infrastructure would be crucial, but what is the role of cultural diplomacy in this collaboration and also in the bigger picture for within the rest of Europe?
I think that cultural diplomacy will be from the vital importance in the certain fields in the Western Balkans. Cooperation is ongoing. But I'll tell you one example. We have so-called dialogue between Serbia and Kosovo. An open issue which is still lasting. When it comes to certain cultural heritage in Kosovo, in Serbia, when it comes to UNESCO principles, it is from the big importance. Once there will be a suitable situation and good circumstances to fix some open issues in the cultural field, especially in the field of heritage of those countries, the peace process and the final solution will be much easier. Not to forget, of course, that different cultures, different religions are always quite important. Communication between the dialogue, between the different cultures is very important. I already mentioned Kosovo and Serbia. This would be, of course, for the importance to join European Union, because this is the union of the values. The values are very much based on the culture, on the same principles, and throughout cultural cooperation, I think it would be much easier for the countries in the Western Balkans to make a progress to European, on the way to the European Union. So this is quite important to say, and of course, I hope that cultural diplomacy will be a very strong tool in the future for reconciliation in the Western Balkans, for making bridges between the countries, and I'm just willing to make an emphasis on the cooperation between the writers in those countries. They have the common organization, and exchange of writers, exchange of students are quite important, because we have new generation who are willing to leave the war, leaving the hostile situation in the region, have the European future, and eventually to stop brain drain. This is quite important, because the countries in the Western Balkans are facing enormous challenge when it comes to migration issues, legal migration issues. So only in Germany you have millions of people who are coming from this region working in Germany. So somehow we got to make environment for all of them, especially for the younger generation, to feel well, to have an exchange, and to on the cultural basis to make good neighborly relationship and cross-border cooperation. This is quite important.
Thank you very much. We have time for, I think, at least one more. And again, Zoom, I'm not forgetting about you, so I'll give you the chance afterwards, those via Zoom, but let's start in the classroom.
Thank you. Your Excellency, my name is T.B. Nguyen. I'm from Canada, and it's my first time here at ICD. My question to you would be, with the crisis in the Middle East, many experts say that there could be more countries seeking nuclear weapon development to protect themselves for not being attacked or invaded. What is the role of NATO in moderating and overseeing this potential development?
I think that NATO would not be directly engaged in the Middle East for obvious reasons. We got to be very careful to make to make a new environment, maybe in the future, to make cooperation between NATO and the other organization in order to support peace and stability. There are some other organizations who are basically focused or have responsibility for the effect of to the matter of nuclear energy, like OSS and some other organization, because it is very hard for NATO to be directly engaged, for example, in the war of Ukraine, in Middle East, etc. Deterrence is very important, and I think NATO itself is a very strong tool in order to make our resilience even stronger and to deter the other countries. This is quite important. But I don't see that NATO will be directly engaged in the Middle East. Maybe in the next period of time, yes, but you gotta have endorsement from United Nations, for example, to have NATO on board. There are two examples for the NATO engagement in the Western Balkans, two missions, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Kosovo. But in order to see NATO involved in, as a peacekeeper, you got to have endorsement and cooperation with the other organization, EU plus NATO plus United Nations. This is quite important. But NATO on the other side is a very strong tool, as I already mentioned, to make deterrence. This is quite important because once we are ready, the European countries, Poland, Baltic states, who are right on the way, right at the border with Russia, this is the guarantee. If there are those countries in NATO, and I think that incursion from the Russia side is hopefully less realistic. So this Article 5, the fact that the member countries, the allies, will be ready to support the other country is in a way a barrier for escalation. I'm always saying that if Croatia was in the NATO in the 90s, we wouldn't have the war. So this is quite important. It's not a military organization. It's an organization for security and very much based on the same principle. But let us see what will happen in the Middle East. For the time being, I hope that there will be some solution. You are, of course, all reading in the newspapers, in the media, that it's an ongoing process. Pakistan is engaged. Negotiations are taking place in Switzerland. Europe will play a very important role when it comes to reconstruction. And I hope that this was my message in my speech, that Europe will find a way as a very strong partner. This is the strongest economy when you compare European economy. Together, we could be a very strong partner if we have one foreign and security policy. To sit at the table, to offer reconstruction in those areas, to have cooperation in the Gulf countries, to cooperate in the Middle East, those are important issues. NATO is there, from my point of view, to support our activities, but I doubt whether there would be direct, immediate engagement from NATO in Middle East. Maybe later on in some other areas, but Middle East has been always very specific.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Before we conclude, I do want to give a chance. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to demute their mic and ask a brief comment or question?
Gordan, they can unmute themselves.
I think there is someone, Esteban. Is the volume up here? Can we hear
Yeah,
them? Okay.
they can unmute themselves. Wait a moment.
Because I think you may have muted them.
No. I forgot that this is a Macintosh.
So if there is someone on Zoom, bear with us.
Wait, not a problem. Now you can speak again. We need to tell to.
Okay, is there someone on Zoom who would like to pose a question or a comment?
If not, at least if you can say something to test it. Hello?
If there's no questions, is there a volunteer just to say hello so we make sure that you can hear us?
We can hear you very well. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, well, on that note then, thank you again very much, Your Excellency, for excellent presentation and discussion. Thank you.